Today I'm going to be attempting to take this American bully from pulling like an absolute freight train to walking on a beautiful loose lead, so that then I can address his main problem, which is reactivity towards other dogs. But first things first, let's get that loose lead walking looking beautiful. Now, as you can see, he is an absolute tank, and although he might not be the biggest dog in the world, he is incredibly strong. So what we need to do for step one to be able to get on top of this is absolutely choose the right tool for him. Flat collar and lead setup just is not the way that he is going to be able to have any kind of success walking, especially knowing just how bad his reactivity is. And as you can hear, it's not good for his breathing. It's just terrible all round. So usually I would consider going to a slip lead to start with, but knowing just how bad this pulling him on a flat collar, I'm going to jump straight to a prong collar to be able to make huge amounts of progress that will then also set us up for future sessions where we're going to be working on his reactivity towards other dogs. So now I've chosen what I believe to be the right tool for him, which is a small prong collar that I think will be the best way to allow me to communicate what it is that I want from him, what it is that I don't want from him. We're going to go into my tune-up drill. Now, my tune-up drill isn't actually about correcting pulling or teaching heel. What I'm doing is I'm communicating with him. I'm teaching him a new language and I'm building engagement. What that means is that I need you to focus on me and pay attention to me. Now, him doing that, pulling right out in front of me, means that there is zero engagement. And for him to have to engage with me, he has to be able to see me, which has the natural byproduct of him dropping nicely in behind me or just by my side. Then from there, we'll move on to future steps where we start to shape that a bit tidier and turn it into a more formal heel. So I'm going to jump straight into my tune-up drill, and what I'm looking for him to do is to not be paying attention to me, and it's slight little bits of pressure when he doesn't. And what that means is that he's going to start having to make sure that he's aware of me, like he's doing here. So he's just starting to check in with me a little bit. If he doesn't, we get a little bit of pressure. Then what we start to do is we start to add in different turns. So I'm going to now start to add in a turn into him, which means that if he's not paying attention and not tucked in enough, what's going to happen is I'm going to walk straight through him. But as you can already see from one repetition, he's starting to yield to that pressure. So once I've gone through that process of teaching the new language of the prong collar, I then turn it into kind of a game, and I call it kind of my magic green circle game. And if you can imagine that on my left hand side, kind of maybe attached to my left ankle, I've got a nice green circle. And if he stays in that green circle, brilliant, superb. And then with my directional changes, if he falls outside of that green circle, I'm then going to use this new language just to help bring him back in to that green circle. And we're going to make it a game, and it's going to be an engagement game. And all he has to do is stay in that circle. If he stays in that circle, he wins. I'm going to verbally praise him and provide treats and rewards. If he goes outside of my green circle, then there's going to be a little bit of pressure on the prong collar to bring him back in, and then when he stays in that green circle for a bit more time, then we can go back to praise and reward. And what this does is it builds up incredible amounts of engagement. It's that engagement that has the byproduct of a nice loose lead walk, but that engagement for me is far more important for its knock-on effects everywhere else. We're now building a better relationship where he's looking up to me as his loving leader and making sure that he's following my guidance and direction rather than me following his. I can then use that relationship and use that communication skill to communicate to him in other areas where he's doing stuff that I don't want him to do, which is going to be, for his specific case, reactivity, but it could be jumping, it could be barking, it could be any number of problem behaviors. I can now address it using this same engagement and this new language that I've just taught him. And then the last step, and this step is one that's very easy for people to overlook, and that is the importance of then shaping heel with fun, reward-based obedience. Yes, I now have the knock-on effects where I can walk him on a loose lead, and that is great. We've made huge progress. But the homework for the owner of this dog is now going to be building on this work and starting to do tons of fun, luring, shaping, cueing, marking of a formal heel, so that we can start communicating with him with that kind of more fun, obedience, positive reinforcement-led training And then if he does decide to ignore those commands, we have our communication pathway to be able to help him say, hey buddy, no. You can't do that. Remember, I've asked you to do this thing, so do that instead, please. And if you do that, then I'm back to rewarding and praising heavily. It's balance. It's about getting the best of both worlds. And you should absolutely not forget to do that with your dogs at home as well. So now I can enjoy this experience with him far better than what he was at the start of the day when he arrived with me. We can go out on a lovely walk, and we can now start addressing reactivity whilst on walks, and hopefully with a bit of practice there we'll have taken a dog that pulls like a freight train, that lunges at every dog, barks at every dog it sees, to one that walks beautifully by my side and ignores other dogs when he sees them.